Right, welcome back. Right, what are we going to talk about next?
Well, we should probably talk about the old chestnut of on-time performance.
Oh
Adam.
yes.
Because we have behind us once again the coveted Huey Award for most reliable airline. But before we get to that, we had the Bitra data first of all from November last year.
Yes. Now I would say no. Admittedly, I did write this up, but I didn't do anywhere near as good as you would have done because you are the custodian of the Huey Award. So I think it's best you tackle this one. So actually, what we are going to do. So this was for November, right?
This was for
data
November.
was for November.
Data was for November.
So we can give a Huey Award for November. Then maybe next month we can do a 2024 award. I don't know if it'd be too old.
Well, the 2024 data is out from Cirium, so we can talk about that as well.
Yeah.
But for on-time performance in November, according to the Bitra data, Qantas maintained its lead over Virgin Australia as the most reliable major airline group in Australia. Though Virgin is cancelling fewer flights. Now, this was a bad month for most of the industry because we've been seeing reliability in the mid to high, the low mid high 70s, in the 70 range. The numbers have had sevens in front of them for a while. But Qantas and QantasLink only 68% on time arrivals and 68.2% on time departures. Virgin Australia and VARA combined 62.7% on-time arrivals and 64% on-time departures. Now, I believe there were a lot of weather events in November that would have impacted this, but still, that's not great.
So basically, what we know is that Virgin effectively, the strategy is not to cancel
if they can help it, they don't cancel.
So they would almost prefer, and I don't want this to come wrong way, but they'd almost prefer people to be delayed for a sizable amount of time rather than have the flight cancelled. It almost seems that's not necessarily the policy at Qantas, which makes sense because they have more flights that they could dump somebody on, but they're more likely to have a cancellation, but your delay would be less.
The lowest cancellations for the month were for VARA, Virgin Australia Regional, at 1.3%, and Skytrans also at 1.3%. Virgin Australia was at 1.7%, Jetstar 2.4%, and then we get up to Qantas at 3.1% and 3.6% cancelled for QantasLink. So in terms of on-time arrivals and departures, Qantas was well ahead of Virgin. In terms of cancellations, Virgin well ahead of Qantas, but in golf terms.
Yeah.
And we do have to give a mention to, by the way, Skytrans, who kind of cleaned the clock of every other airline out there in November. 97.7% on-time arrivals and departures, and they also had again the equal lowest cancellations of 1.3%.
97.7. Yeah, that's very impressive.
That's very impressive.
That's extraordinary. I kind of feel the Skytrans people should just be running everything, like pluck them out.
Yeah, and in fairness, Skytrans, smaller airline.
You can only beat what's in front of you.
Yeah,
they've nailed it.
Yeah, no, they've done very, very well. But we also got the data, the global data from Cirium, which is this global analyst that looks at global on-time performance data. And Cirium found that Qantas for 2024 was the most reliable most on-time major airline in Australia last year. For over 2024, 73.93% of its flights arrived within 15 minutes of their scheduled time. This is compared to 73.4% for Jetstar, 72.7% for Virgin Australia. Completion rate of 98.36%. Pretty good. And I believe this encapsulates international and domestic together, if I'm not mistaken. So Qantas was the only Australian airline to place in the top 10 for the Asia Pacific region, though granted it was at 10th. Air New Zealand was 4th.
Whoa, the Kiwis have thrashed the Aussies again.
77.58% on-time arrivals from Air New Zealand, and the Kiwis were behind JAL, ANA, and Singapore Airlines in that order. Others included Thai Air Asia, which was in 5th, and Cathay Pacific, which was in 9th, just ahead of Qantas. The world leader for on-time arrivals last year was Aeromexico, a carrier based in Outer Mongolia. which achieved Mexico, obviously, which achieved an 86.7% on-time rate. They have a fleet of 113 aircraft. They've got 16 more on order, and the average age of their fleet is only 7.1 years. So they've got a bunch of the Max 8s and 9s, and they've got a bunch of Dreamliners.
Not a coincidence. The younger fleet's more reliable.
The younger fleet's more reliable. Whereas Qantas, of course, has an average fleet age of around 15 years. The bulk of its fleet is those older 737-800s and the A330s. Now it's getting some new planes in. It's got the A220-300s, which are coming in, and it's also got this year the first A321 XLRs set to arrive to start replacing those 737-800s. But this does, but aging fleets do pose a problem with, as we've said, quite a few times. The older an aircraft gets, the less reliable it is. And, even if the engine is newer than the aircraft, there's still room for problems because, the older engines, the engines on those aircraft are still going to be older than the engines on the newer aircraft.
Yeah, exactly. And I did research this once in terms of what it is that ages aircraft. Effectively, it's cycles, which is takeoff and landing cycles. So if you have a larger international aircraft, it will be doing less cycles because it might be in the air more, but it's doing less takeoff and landings. But your domestic aircraft, your 737, which could be traveling multiple times each day, they're going to have a shelf life, probably about 20 years or so, I'd say max. You can get them going longer, but the older they are, the more likely they are to need maintenance, the more expensive it's going to be. Qantas was sort of unfortunate. They've had a lot of stick for not getting a new aircraft. The Project Winton fleet restructure, which is kind of happening now, probably would have happened a few years before, but obviously you had COVID. The airline shut down. And
I believe the management was kind of delaying updating the fleet as well to keep the.
Yeah, I mean, just the Project Sunrise decision alone was pushed back like 2 or 3 years. So it was unfortunate timing with them, and also it's unfortunate timing that when we came out post COVID, this is when we've had all of the delays. Obviously, they have some Boeings on order, but even those kind of post-COVID supply chain problems has slowed the whole thing down. So firstly, their fleet isn't that old. It's nowhere near Rex levels where it's like decrepit, no offense. But they're getting into their older years. But a lot of that isn't necessarily down to poor decisions, I'd say.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've gone on a tangent
with
here.
all that,
People want to know who won the Huey.
So, okay. So for October, the winners, it was joint winners Skytrans and Hinterland. Now, I'm going to have to give an extremely honourable mention to Skytrans.
But what I don't understand here, right? So they're doing 97.7%.
Yes.
And you're not giving them the victory. If you're there,
this is the most honourable mention that it is possible to give.
We've had Basilio get in touch with us before, haven't we?
They did a phenomenal job.
And
a phenomenal job. But I have to take into account the Cirium data. I have to. This is only a semi-scientific process, Adam.
Right.
There are factors that I have to consider, including the Cirium data, which showed that it was the most reliable airline for 2024. So, with a massive asterisk on it, the Huey for this month goes to Qantas.
Right.
But with the highest of honourable mentions to Skytrans.
No, look, I mean, you decide the Huey Award, and congratulations to Qantas, but. I mean, 97.7%, and you're still losing.
The trouble is, if we keep giving it to Skytrans, we're gonna be giving it to Skytrans for.
But it's not their fault. It's not their fault.
From here to buggery. That would be a very boring award.
No, it's just not their fault. They're running a reliable service and thrashing the opposition week after week after week.
So, I mean, the fundamental flaw, of course, with the whole Huey process, Adam, is that there can only be one winner. There can only be one winner.
Yeah, and there's not many. Yeah,
and we can't. If we keep giving it to the same airline every single time.
You jumped up this Huey thing, so this whole thing is on you. Like if you're saying
it was your idea, Adam. You proposed the Jake Nelson Award for the most reliable airline because I was going through the data, and you were like, no.
And then you got the actual trophy on board, and then you did all that.
I taped Huey Lewis's face to it, but this was your idea to begin with, Adam.
Right, well,
you have placed me in charge of the Huey, and I am its custodian, and I say who wins the Huey.
Yeah, no.
On highest of honourable mentions to Skytrans, but because of the Cirium data and because they were the most reliable major airline for the month of November, Qantas.
Well, congratulations, Vanessa Hudson. She's really starting to see her leadership take effect.